Hello and welcome to another episode of the IT News podcast. On the show this week, we're talking to Strandbags CTO Stuart and Head of Digital and Data Delivery Paul Erskine about the origin, status and next steps for Project Future, as well as a new set of transformations beyond it. Just a note, this was recorded prior to Australia opening up a bit more, and so you may have to excuse a couple of lockdown references. Still, there's plenty in there and we hope you enjoy the conversation.
First of all, to take a business that's got our heritage back to 1927, typically a store retailer, 270 stores, then take COVID and then take away half of your business, which is travel, and then look at how the business has reacted incredibly to really focus on being a fashion retailer. And the thing that we wanted to really kind of talk to about is we've just launched both Australia and New Zealand e-commerce websites in 4 months. The project started, I think it was the 8th of April. We went into the city to do the intro meeting with the partner and all the key people. The following few weeks, we did a 5-week design process and then a series of sprints to go live in New Zealand on the 23rd. And then Australia went live on the 30th of August. What we've also done is we've integrated a digital asset management tool. We've integrated search from Sajari. We've integrated merchandise management from Tagaless. We've got High Conversion, which is an Amazon personalized based product for recommendations. A whole bunch of different checkout options, including Afterpay, Hum, and Zip, all integrated into the back end of Strandbags and already performing extremely well. When we launched Australia, we had 16,111 customers reactivate their accounts via emails. The IT team, by the way, is only 10 people. There's Paul in delivery, and then there's 3 across in my e-commerce group and me. And they also have to run the stores, and they also have to do all the projects while we're moving our data centers and doing all these other things that we're trying to do at the same time. So we felt there was probably an interesting story of how that came about.
I know we've kind of jumped ahead there in terms of the flow of the project, but maybe we can just step back a little bit. You mentioned there a little bit about the team, but maybe you can just talk a little bit about the structure of the team itself. So where, for example, Paul fits in on delivery and all the different elements that make up the team that worked on this.
Yeah, sure. So if I went back to September last year when I joined, there was essentially an IT team with a group IT manager, about 4 developers that looked after point of sale and some other tools that we've got, a couple of people that sit in store support and manage infrastructure, and then a business analyst. And then across in e-commerce was 1 person, and that was it. So since then, we've gone out and hired a number of people under a structure. So we've got additional person with install support. We've hired a head of e-commerce and digital marketing. We've hired a digital marketing manager. We've hired a e-commerce customer experience manager. And then Paul's role is head of digital and data delivery. So this all came about through the strategy work that was done around last November. And in that period, obviously, we're trading into Christmas. We've come out of lockdowns. Victoria is now relatively open. We're just trading through. And the view was we want to do all these things. Digital is a priority for the business, but we've just got to get through Christmas and make sure Christmas comes out okay. Get to March, we get sign off by the board and we start the project on the 8th. But at this point, we'd already done an RFP. We'd had a look at the market, understood what was the right product to go for. And Shopify was chosen because of its capability, its integration, and actually its partner ecosystem is extremely strong. I then said to the board, we're going to target going live at the end of October. And so to do that, we're going to have to do certain things. We're going to have to focus on certain things. And we're going to have to say no to certain things. Real priority discussion. And I said, great, full support. I get to start the project in April. I'm looking at how online's performing, and it's okay. It's not setting the world on fire. We've had several outages of our old platform. We've had some updates that haven't been as successful as we'd like. And I said to the team, we're going to have to pull this forward. So we're going to have to go live as fast as we can. And I suggest we do this in August. But what we'll do is we'll do it as an MVP. So we called it the MLP, the minimum lovable product. Paul had just started. He'd been in the business about a month. He almost fell off his chair at this point. And then said, cheers, boss. Thanks for that one.
The first Stuart changed it. I brought it. He's like, I think we could do this in September. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fine. Then it became August. And I was like, okay. I was actually thinking October was going to be a push. September, okay, we can maybe give that a go. In August, at that point, I was like, I want to make sure everyone has heard this. Let's lock in August as the go live date, because any sooner than that. But I think also it was looking around the internal team at August and no one really batted an eyelid. And they were like, we get stuff done if we believe in it, and we've got a date that we all believe in, we'll get it done. And the vendor was the same. So looking around the table, no one flinched and everyone was kind of up for it.
The key thing was we said, we've got all these requirements to go for October, But what we're going to do is we're going to pare that back, and this is what we're going to do for August. And let's be really sensible and pragmatic, because there's things that we could deliver, but we might not be able to do as a business because we might not be ready. And actually, some of those things would just not be relevant to us at the moment because of stores being shut. We've got 145 stores shut at the moment. So we just pared that down to a key release. And if you have a look at the site actually looks really, really nice. It's got some really lovely features. It's got a nice flow to it, but there are things we need to add to it going forward. And so that enabled us to just be very focused. I think the other thing is, Paul's point is spot on. The team is culturally brilliant. I've worked with different teams across businesses, whether it be Coles, whether it be Mecca, back in the UK with Tesco and Dixon's, and they just have this total attitude of, we can solve for that. That's not an issue. And even up to last Friday night, we were just prepping Australia for go live. You do a copy from Shopify, then you go through and you correct all the things that are wrong, and you add all the new config back in. And on Friday night, we were having a few problems. Well, all of us didn't switch off till 10 o'clock because we were working through it, solved some additional bugs on Saturday morning and still went live on Monday morning. I've had teams in the past that just didn't have that mentality. So they have a real kind of service delivery in a crisis mentality, but then apply that to projects. And that's unusual. You don't always see that with a lot of businesses and projects going live.
I think also one of the things that I've seen projects in the past where it starts off, you're taking your time with design and then it starts to ramp up and it gets really busy towards the end. I think because we knew even back in May, it was like, okay, this is a real push from now. So even the design, it was kind of like quite a high tempo from day one. There was never a time where it was that, oh, we can do that next week. We're using Jira and we're prioritizing the backlog for each sprint. So there was a good momentum. We had like, okay, we need to finish design by this point. We need to get the integrations ready by this point. And within that, we could trade things out. So towards the end, we're like, okay, this can go to release 2 or this can go to release 2. But we also, because the iterative way of working, we built in a lot of quality as we went. So we got a release of the website quite early on where it just had the homepage, but not fully built. Then the next iteration, the homepage was built and a bit of the product listing page was built. So we're able to share that with the CEO and a lot of stakeholders and get feedback along the journey. So we were able to really refine things as we went. So it's probably the first time I've really seen that real agile way of working where we're using Jira to manage the different tasks and everyone's basically working in those 2-week sprints.
And sorry, just to step back a little bit or sideways from this, you mentioned the previous e-commerce system or what you were using before from an e-commerce standpoint. Do you want to talk a little bit about this before?
The technology was, I would say, a mix of PHP and Bootstrap and different components put together. But in terms of an e-commerce platform, it had 2 layers. It had a homepage and then a product listing page. And you couldn't put content into the product listing pages. It was very difficult to create stories. It was difficult to change the experience. Integrating new checkout features was quite challenging. And we only had Hum in New Zealand and we only had Afterpay and Hum in Australia. And soon we'll have a number of other payment providers and wallet types going forward. And so what we found is it was quite challenging to develop the platform, but also it was run on infrastructure, which was essentially hosted and you pay for the cores, but it wasn't what I'd call a cloud infrastructure. It wasn't able to auto scale or handle volume. And so what we typically have to do for a Click Frenzy or Black Friday, particularly last year, was take the cores from 8, 16, 24 and just keep going up and up and up until we could see the response times where we wanted them to be. But it was all very trial and error and almost a bit of hope involved. Whereas with something like Shopify or Salesforce or those cloud engineered SaaS-based commerce platforms, they're there to scale and they're designed to flow with the business, but also turning on features that we want to have. So if we want to turn on different review platforms, or we want to turn on a merchandising tool or try a different search tool, our old platform, we just couldn't do that. We had a Lucene-based search, which meant that my team and I had to go through GA, work out all the synonyms, work out all the mistypes, then go and put them all in and then tag every product that might link to that. There's nothing that was like Sajari does where it actually starts to work out and the machine starts to figure out that actually the customer typed this in and then clicked on this. So that's what they really wanted. So let's serve that next time. And so what that means is we would have needed a lot more people to deliver the sales velocity that we want to go after as a business. And then finally, it was very difficult to add really beautiful content to it. And the business is generating such wonderful content now. And we've got access to that content much easier through what we've delivered in this platform, that it just means that we're starting at a higher base and we're just going to get higher and higher as we go through.
How much of the design work, I guess, or how much of the design of the new sites and the features that are being added to it was done based on, for example, what you knew your customers wanted, or how much of it was driven internally by seeing the changes that have happened across the e-commerce space in Australia? There's a real lot of higher level experiences now being offered by a lot of different retailers. So I guess there's pressure there to keep up with some of those experiences as well.
I think, Paul, I'd probably have to say it was done in thirds in a way, because we've worked for different e-commerce retailers, Coles Online, the Coles Liquor Group, Flybuys, Argos, Dixons, then for me, and then with Mecca. So you see really great experiences. You see experiences designed to handle incredibly high volume and very high basket count of items, like a Coles. Then you see experiences that are designed with content to storytelling like Mecca, totally a social business to actually drive you to that purchase. And so that was one element. The other one was then using Hotjar and looking through GA and seeing where people land and seeing what goes on and just trying to watch the videos and the incoming feedback and get an understanding of that. And then ultimately, the next part really was then actually just starting with a fresher design to then solve for those issues, but also work out what the experience was we wanted to have in the future and how we needed to sell our fashion product and our travel product, because they're very different. They have different image counts to see the product. We speak to the products differently. And also, our business is built around two worlds. It's built around fashion, which is the handbags, and it's built around the travel, which is your typical luggage and weekenders, no style products. And we've got to present those slightly differently.
I think also we'd seen that a lot of the time what makes a good website is the imagery, is the content. So it's to kind of try and make the site quite stripped back. So really to bring those images to life, so not have too much going on, but let the layout of the page do the talking. I think that's really come good. So we did work with MindArc UX and our internal creative team. And I think that it was almost letting the white spaces do the talking. Like if you look at the site, the images really stand out. And I think there's going to be a big push into the future around those lifestyle shots and telling the story of Strandbags and really a lot more content. And I think the layout gives that space to put your mark on it. So I think there was a lot of real good ideas, but I think that kind of minimalist approach really has made it stand out.
I mean, one of the big changes that was designed quite upfront was the navigation, but it did evolve over time and it's very different to what we have today. But the navigation was designed, we started with what do we want it to be and what do we think that needs to be. But then we started using tools like SEMrush to really understand what customers are searching and what are those search volumes and how does that then flow through. And then bringing in, okay, how do we make sure that the categories in our business still get the real prominence? Because we didn't have gender-based categories, for example, on our site. So if you're a guy, how'd you find any guys products? You were looking at business and backpacks, or you were into wallets and then you were trying to find stuff. Well, actually, now you've got your own section. And the same then for women's. We've also got handbags, travel, wallets as well, but you've now got a dedicated women's section that breaks down styles of product, whether it be shoulder, whether it be crossbody, whether it be tote, bucket, overnight. And these can all change very easily now for us based on what customers are searching and what those trends are. Whereas on the old tool, that was very, very difficult for us to do. And then, of course, you've got the ability to find product by color as well, which is a game changer for us, but just sounds so simple and normal for the industry these days.
And I think as well, when I was reading your LinkedIn post, Stuart, some of the other features of the site as well, particularly I think the link to the sort of warehouse management systems or the way to check stock, that you actually have stock in before you actually order it. I think you're starting to see that across a lot of the big retailers at the moment. And that is also a bit of a game changer, particularly if you've done a lot of ordering on Australian e-commerce site. Often it's a complete lottery once you place the order as to whether they actually had it in stock and how long it might take for you to actually get it.
I'd say we were guilty of some of that. So when I started, I was looking at the promise. And the first thing you do is you test some orders and you see what happens. So I go and do a click and collect from a local store. And luckily, it's available. They ring me up. And I said, well, what happens if it wasn't available? And they went, well, we'd have shipped it from another store or brought it from the DC. So that would have been a couple of days probably to get it across. So then the store would have paid for the transfer. So you've got these costs going on and you've got these delays. And so when you look through the data and the stats, there was high percentages that the stores actually did for the store the customer chose. They could fulfill it pretty quickly. They were typically 3 to 4 hours, and that was without pushing them. But then you still got this store transfer and this warehouse transfer piece going on, which is cost. So we built the API some time ago to put it into our old site, but we couldn't get the old site to do it and work properly, which is part of the reason I went, right, we're just moving. We're going to be doing this faster and going harder. So we built what we call the stock API so that when a customer goes onto the site, finds the product she likes, in the PDP itself, you can check the stock based on your postcode in local stores up to 5 and the warehouse. When you get through to the checkout, then you're also then doing the same click and collect function, and it actually looks directly at the store's stock through an integration layer and an e-com platform that we've got that then surfaces the stock from all the stores in near real time. And I'm talking seconds and minutes of transactions coming through. And the aim of that was, one, to satisfy the immediacy for customers, but two, to reduce costs of transfer. Where that takes us next is the ability in the future, if the demand's there, and we'll trial and test this, is to give an on-demand style service. So imagine Dan Murphy's now, but Strandbags now. So you're going on holiday the next day. Oh crap, I bust my case. The zip's broken, it's smashed. I need it in 2 hours. Well, we could probably do that. And that's the sort of things that we want to be able to get to for customers.
When you were talking there about taking feedback, I guess, from the stores and from the places where you were fulfilling the orders, how much did you also involve the stores and other parts of the business in the decision making and the design process for what you've produced out of Project Future so far?
The actual click and collect proposition we've had for quite some time across the 270 stores. And there's a few other things like a great store kiosk and mobile point of sale that the stores already have. And what we were doing is we were speaking to the store managers, the store experience director about how we might bring this proposition to life. And we've already got, I think it's 21 fulfillment stores, as well as all of them are click and collect on top of the warehouse. So we've got the ability, when a warehouse closes at Saturday and Sunday, for example, or at Christmas, the volumes are very, very high, we can fulfill from stores around the country so we can balance things away. And that's all about giving that better experience. And the stores work very closely with us on that. In fact, they love web orders. They love fulfilling them, especially now, because it's the majority of the workload in New South Wales and Victoria. But that relationship with the stores team, the country manager, the head of retail, and those regionals has been great from a feedback point of view. And then through the customer services team, we stay very connected to customer services and have in the last few days particularly.
I think what really helped right at the start, we got MindArc, the vendor, on board, and we actually started going to stores. We go to Blacktown, which is the new concept store, because we're very aware of the kind of omni-channel. We wanted to have the website reflect a new store design. So Chadstone was the flagship store in Victoria. Blacktown has got the new design in New South Wales, so we actually spent time in store with the regional manager and even at one stage the CEO on FaceTime as we were going through the store, basically talking about the different worlds and how, if a customer comes into the store, how do the staff greet the customer and how do they then determine, do they go through the fashion side or do they go through the travel side? When the people who run customer service in store, they know the type of questions to ask the customers. We wanted the website to reflect that. And so I think that actually really helped us at the start to kind of shape the web experience. So when you come onto the website, you've got the travel world, you've got the fashion world or the handbag world. And then from there, what are the type of questions the customer would ask to find the type of product they want. So that's really the way we've kind of tiered the website to reflect that. And in our head office in Belrose, when we got the prototype in Figma for the new site, we printed off all the screens. So we had at the homepage, how do you buy a set of luggage? How do you buy a handbag? It was quite a large conference room. We basically covered the whole room, like floor to ceiling, all the different pages. So when the business came in, they could look at it. We'd then say take the merch director, the CEO, the retail director, we'd walk them through the room and get feedback from them. And that actually really helped us. The whole way through, everyone was engaged. So as we kind of started showing the website as it evolved, people were like, okay, I inputted to this bit or I gave my feedback here. And that really helped with that buy-in. So there was a real feeling of the whole business are pushing in the same direction and everyone's got input as much as they want to that.
Yeah, the creative team, with what they've had to create in terms of banners on the category pages, the uplift of the images, the background colour, the on-body shots that are now developing and growing, to Paul's point, the stories that are coming out from that team in the future, it's about the evolution of digital across the business and the changes that that's bringing about. So very, very different for us.
And Paul, obviously at the start of the call, it was mentioned that you're both in delivery, but also data. We've spoken a little bit about the delivery side and the fast track of delivery and the delivery through the sprints. But maybe if we can talk a little bit about the data side. Obviously, Stuart's talked a little bit about the data side in terms of the Sajari for search and also the personalization side as well. So there's a lot of data points flying around.
So at Mecca, we had run a project using Amazon Personalize, so Amazon Machine Learning. And we saw the power of that driving product recommendations for customers. So at the time, the project was to send it out through email. And we saw a lot of increased conversion off the back of that. So we knew AWS Personalize was a really good recommendation engine. So when we started looking, okay, we're going to go with Shopify Plus, we spoke to the lady who runs the machine learning practice for Amazon in the States. And she put us on to her technical lead and we said, okay, build a new website. We want to put product recommendations on here. We want to use AWS Personalize. And at that time, he said, look, we're working with a company called High Conversion. They're building a recommendation engine that plugs into Shopify and has got AWS Personalize in the back end. So where in Mecca, we'd built all the machine learning models and we'd built the data lake and we'd taken all the information and fed it through and we had data scientists running all that. High Conversion will like, look, you don't need to do that. We've got a dashboard, so you pick the recommendation engine you want for the bottom of your homepage. You pick the one you want for your product listing page. You pick the one you want in your cart. So they basically read the sessions from Shopify. They run that through the AWS models and then that will surface back the recommendations. So at the moment, those recommendations are running in the background in each site. They're not on the site at the moment because we want to build up a couple of weeks worth of recommendations and we want to have a look ourselves to say, okay, what's it recommending me? But we're very confident based on past experience that that's the kind of ultimate model. It's the machine learning service that Amazon use themselves. So when you go on to look at a new book or Audible and it recommends things to you, it's the same engine that's in the background. So that's something we're obviously very excited to layer into the system or layer onto the website.
Well, we're building sessions, aren't we, for the first 2 weeks? So once those sessions are built across real customers, we can then turn on the different recipes from the recommendation model and let it then make those suggestions. Because if it was based on what we were searching as part of our tests, it probably wouldn't be the best use case of who our customers really are. That's a big one. And then on top of that, with Sajari, there's some really useful data points coming off Sajari in terms of what customers are searching, where they're not getting to where they want, which search indexes and relevancy are giving the highest CTRs. And so that's really powerful. Of course, we've got GA, of course, we've got Hotjar and those tools. But another one we've now got, which is very, very strong, is a product called Taggerless, which is a merchandise management tool. And that gives you a full view of every product that gets clicked through, products get bought. It gives you all the rankings, allows you to boost those products. I think it gives you the e-commerce equivalent of the best store manager, standing, watching customers, what they're touching, what they're looking at, and then which ones are bringing to the counter to buy. And it's the first time I've had that real visibility, and it's actually in real time as well. So that's another fabulous tool that we've stumbled on, to be honest.
I think that to me is the beauty of Shopify Plus. It was like, okay, you've got the core platform and you can build the homepage and you can build all the category pages. And it was like, okay, we want a merchandising tool. What's the best one that works with Shopify? And we did a bit of analysis of that, chose what we found to be the best one. Same with the search engine. It was like, okay, here's the top three. Let's do a kind of bake off between them. Let's choose the best one. So across the board, same with the digital asset management system. So again, that's something we could have easily have said, okay, let's do that later. But we've now got a separate interface where we can see all the product images, all the lifestyle images that then feeds into Shopify. So it's enabling a lot of different use cases across the business to be able to get access to these key images that we can use in EDMs, we can use on the website. But I think that's the great thing about it. And because each of those plugins, they want to stay at the top. So the customer service we were getting, like Stuart said, from Taggerless, from Sajari, from High Conversion, across the board, the customer service from each of those vendors has been first class, and that obviously helped as well.
So maybe it's a two-part question, but the minimum lovable product, Stuart mentioned that you slimmed that down, I guess, essentially, so you could get it into market quickly. And then there were some features that you decided to put on an extended time frame in terms of implementation. So maybe do you want to talk a little bit about how the two e-commerce properties are going to evolve over the next certain period as the first part of the question?
Maybe we'll say what we did. So we didn't have any account management features in our old website at all. And the minimum was we want to have account management features. We want the customer to be able to see past purchase history, change addresses, add the date of birth in, get access to their digital perks card, which they've now got. So that was the MVP. Where that would go next is we want to then restructure the program so they can see what the benefits are of the program more clearly than just 10% off every so often of the value you've spent. We might want to put tiers in. We might want to guarantee access to sale. We might want to do gift with purchase. We might want to give you free drone delivery for a top tier member or whatever, some crazy idea we come up with. But it's about evolving that scheme. And that means we're linking more with the Marsis loyalty components that we've got, not just the tagging and the email and the usual back in stock type stuff that goes on. And so from a loyalty point of view, that's what we want to do. The delivery piece, we want to enhance click and collect. We want to make it faster. So we want to have a proposition in market that might be 2 hours or 4 hours, something around that. Once stores actually open, kind of pointless now. And we want to have an on-demand service as well, because we think these are propositions that are really good at times like Easter and Christmas and Father's Day and Mother's Day, when there's a time frame that deliveries can't handle. And then talk about payments. I can't say who, but we've signed up another buy now, pay later provider to add to our platform that gives an extended window. So that will attract to premium customers who travel, but also the higher end luggage, which is obviously quite expensive when you're buying quite a few items. So if you can spread it over 8 or 16 payments, it takes away the barrier. And we've got to switch on Apple Pay and Google Pay, but we have to do that so that we can adjust the way that flows with our current click and collect. There's some barriers at the moment in Shopify that don't allow for that, but they have a release coming out which allow that to evolve further. And then Paul's mentioned content, Strandbags stories, shoppable content, really making Instagram come to life more than just a widget. They're the things that will come to bear over the next few weeks. And they're big pieces of work that we've got to evolve and deliver to. We started them, but they'll come out over the next few months as we move towards Christmas.
And the second part of that question was going to be, is there more to Project Future in terms of the way that this project might evolve? So beyond, say, the e-commerce platforms, for example, is there more that you want to do once circumstances in Australia change?
We have about 100 stores that already have our very own mobile point of sale. So that's a nice product. And we've got, I think it's 48 stores that have a mobile kiosk that has been designed internally and is great. What it doesn't do is allow for payments. So it's really a kind of browsing tool, like an endless aisle browsing tool. Where we want to do is take a cut down of the website, drop that down onto that kiosk in stores so that a customer can take their phone, show the digital purchase card, sign into the device, into their account, tap with the payment or other means, and then once it's done, automatically exit. So what that does is, if you've got, say, a Flylight luggage range where you've got 5 or 6 different ranges, you've got maybe 6 or 8 different colors, and then you've got sizes, that's a lot of real estate. That's a lot of big product that a 200 square meter store can't physically fit. So what do? Is you cut that down and go, here's the colorways in the minis. Here are the 3 different sizes in the bag. And by the way, here's some of the variations. Now stick a QR code on them, open it up on the app, or go to the endless aisle console. You know the color, you know the size, you've solved those 2 barriers of whether or not it's going to work for you, and then you can place the order, have it delivered to store, have it delivered to home. And that's all part of the journey of just taking what we've already got as a business and great process and great options, but just making it better and better each time. And that's where Future will go for the site. Will Future end as a project? Yes, it will. But the site evolution will continue, as you'd expect it to do in this nature, but we'll then move on to other projects that we've got to solve for, like Project Explorer, which will be all about the data foundations of Strandbags.
And just a final question, you've got heaps going on within the business, something I've been asking everyone, what's getting you excited about the next 12 months?
Having a beer in a pub.
That was unexpected. That wasn't what I was expecting, but yes, that would be awesome.
Actually, from our business point of view, what's going to really excite me is seeing travel come back, because we've got some great products, we've got some great new businesses, we've got some great new ranges, and they're not out yet and they're not at their potential because the travel will or want is not there yet. And we're seeing green shoots with the UK and the US flying around in one of our businesses. I just think there is an enormous hockey stick upside that's going to come for a business like ours once travel opens up. But what's clear is that there'll be more of the business revenue done digitally with our business. I won't say online, I mean digitally. It might be a mobile point of sale, it might be a kiosk, it might be social, it might be the web. And I think that's super exciting. And then again, a beer.
As well, I think we've proven in a short space of time what we can do. We sat back in April and said, okay, we're going to do this in August, and no one blinked an eye kind of thing, and then we've done it. So it's almost like, okay, that's done, what's next? And as Stuart mentioned, we've got a data platform to build. There's pretty much whatever we can think up. I think there's a confidence there that we can. So I think obviously we've got the right technology, but we've also got the right people. And I think that kind of positive energy, positive attitude where people are like, okay, what do we need to do? Even when things were coming up towards the end, as obviously we're having to say, okay, that can go phase 2, but everyone kept calm. And so I think that bodes well that despite the pressure that was on people homeschooling, like everyone working from home unexpectedly, that actually nothing slipped. We just kept powering on. So it's kind of like, okay, what's the next thing we're going after? And as Stuart mentioned, we've got got, again, a whole new data platform to build on AWS, so there'll be a lot more going on with that, which I think everyone's excited about.
I mean, there's going to be the data platform, there'll be HR transformation, so there'll be how we handle employee engagement, employee reward, the process of time and attendance across the business, because there's opportunities within that space. There'll be elements in finance, merchandising, but we've also got businesses like Amla.co.uk, which we know Strandbags owns, and the opportunity for that to grow both internationally but also within Australia. And then the same for Strandbags. What could be outside of Australia and New Zealand is a little unknown, but now we're on a new platform. We've got a chance to really think about that. And there's marketplaces to get a hold of next as well. So I think there's so much we just haven't got to. And I always remember Joe Horgan at Mecca saying, we're simply sipping at the font of opportunity at the moment. And that's probably the best way of describing it.
That was Stuart Freer and Paul Erskine from Strandbags. And that's the podcast for this week. We'll be back with an exciting new interview next week. Until then, you can catch all the latest headlines in Australian IT over at itnews.com.au.